Thank you very much, Brooks, for those warm words of introduction. And Mignon, thank you for introducing those hymns. Very, very touching words and lyrics of that hymn. And Ryan, thank you for that hauntingly beautiful piece you played. That's really one of my favorite songs. And you can be assured, Ryan, that you did fantastically. I'd like to share with you some words that will honor this time of lighting the chalice. And they come from Elizabeth Maclay, who wrote, "As drops of rain that find each other and build to become a track, a rivulet, a stream, a river, a sea, so are we drawn together, so are we fortunate to find each other, and so are we bound together on this shared passage toward an unknown ocean and eternity." As my opening words, I would like to share a brief reading from Henry David Thoreau, who had a very solid connection with the Unitarian movement through his good friend Ralph Waldo Emerson. And in his book Walden, or Life in the Woods, Thoreau wrote, "We need the tonic of wildness." And he admonished us to live in each season as it passes. Breathe the air, drink the drink, taste the fruit, and resign yourself to the influence of the earth. Heaven, he wrote, is under our feet as well as over our heads. And from Mary Oliver's poem, Mindful, she reminds us, every day I see or I hear something that more or less kills me with delight. It is what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside this soft world, to instruct myself over and over in joy, in acclamation. Thank you, choir, for that beautiful video. It's so heartwarming to see the choir sing. And whoever created that video where you had pictures of the earth in very beautiful scenery, whoever that is, they're a genius, I think. That was so stirring to see that. And thank you, Pam, for that very moving story. And it really gets right to the heart of what I wanted to try to say today. We have entered a time where humanity's disharmony with the earth and with nature is having consequences, or rather, those consequences are becoming noticeable. And people in this congregation are very sensitive to that and aware of that. This morning before the service, I was walking down the hall and I saw that a committee, Echo Solutions, had a poster pertaining to a program that would be begun in March, I believe, and I took a picture and I sent that picture to some friends of mine in Florida and in North Carolina and other places, and they were very impressed that the congregation was addressing this issue, and they were impressed with the book that they were going to use as a guideline. So this congregation is very well aware of those consequences that have finally caught up with humanity, but not all of humanity is. Intimate daily interactions with the earth that has been or was a part of the human condition and a part of the life of our species for thousands upon thousands of years changed in the modern era, so that now there are things intruding between us and our relationship to nature, our laptops, our phones, and all the technology we use, which is so indispensable to us and is a blessing in so many ways, puts up yet one more wall between us and an interactive, continual relationship to nature. And similarly, reinforcing the same tendency is our culture has emphasized for centuries the conquering of nature and the exploitation of nature, mindless and heedless and indifferent to the consequences of our exploitation of the earth, as though it were there just for us and just for our unlimited desires to try to extract from whatever it had of value as we saw it to give us. Our species has been out of harmony with nature for a long time. And because of those trends I just mentioned and others, we human beings very often forget that we are part of nature. As surely as a fish, a drop of water, a leaf, a tree, the ocean, the clouds, we are a part of nature. And yes, we are a thinking part of nature. And yes, we can speak in language to one another and to anyone who speaks our language. And yes, we can think broadly about the future and potentiality of ourselves and others. Still, we are part of nature, inescapably. Why, we might ask, are human beings so alienated from a deep awareness and connection to the nature that we're a part of and that nurtures us and keeps us alive and gives us everything? Perhaps to some extent it's due to our religious traditions and beliefs. The traditions of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity generally I say, not in specific cases, but generally did not emphasize a peaceful coexistence with nature. And the God of the Bible, of St. Augustine, of St. Thomas Aquinas, and of Martin Luther, had us standing as individuals before an invisible God, transcendent, unknowable, and mysterious, and occasionally fierce, and most certainly inscrutable. And our religious beliefs seem to be utterly disconnected with the natural world of which we were a part. Poets have led the way in the 20th century and now the 21st century in helping us shift our perception about our true relationship to nature. In Wendell Berry's often quoted poem, The Peace of Wild Things, we hear a poem written by a white man, a child of Christian culture, a citizen of Kentucky, seeking to hear and become in tune with a wisdom that he perceives at work in nature, and as something that can be a force for the antidote to his own anxieties. And like a person straining to hear a faint voice of wisdom that is important, but has often been forgotten, he invites us to listen as carefully as he is trying to do. And so he wrote the poem, "When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be. I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free." This same awareness of finding in nature a cure to modern humanity's confusion and alienation is captured in a poem by the Pacific Northwestern poet David Wagoner, in a poem entitled "Lost." Stand still. The trees ahead and the bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes. Listen. It answers, "I have made this place around you." If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. Joy Harjo, the poet, in her poem "Remember," brings us into a fuller and deeper intimacy with nature with this poem. Remember the sky that you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon, who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn that is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away tonight. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father. He is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are. Red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them, listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind. Remember her voice. She knows the origin of the universe. Remember you are all people and all people are you. Remember you are this universe and this universe is you. Remember all is in motion, is growing in you. Remember language comes from this. Remember the dance language is, that life is. Remember. One of my professors many moons ago in seminary, Sally McFaig, would often say, nature is God's body and the earth is God's body. A poem by Mary Oliver entitled "One or Two Things" seems to express the same thought. The God of dirt, she wrote, came to me many times and said so many wise and delectable things. I lay on the grass listening to his dog's voice, crow voice, frog voice. Now, he said, and now, and never once mentioned forever. The movement toward wisdom in nature is further developed, or perhaps given an added nuance, and those who see nature as a companion, a presence, an other, not unlike the goddess of old, as in Starhawk's poem, Earth Mother, Star Mother. You who are called by 1,000 names, may all remember we are cells in your body and dance together. We are the grain and the loaf that sustains us each day. We are radiant light and sacred dark, the balance. Within you we are born, we grow, live and die. You bring us round the circle to rebirth. Within us you dance forever. This inclination towards listening to nature, being a companion of nature, giving nature what is its rightful due, is in fact, as we know, an old path trod by many. And prominent among those who practiced this path were Native American peoples, and in honor of this, I close my remarks with words from Black Elk. I was standing on the highest mountain of them all, and round about beneath me was the whole hoop of the world. And while I stood there, I saw more than I can tell, and I understood more than I saw. For I was seeing, in the sacred manner, the shapes of all things in the Spirit, and the shape of all things as they must live together like one being. The sacred hoop of my people was one of the many hoops that made one circle, wide as daylight and as starlight. And in the center grew one mighty flowering tree to shelter all the children of one mother and one father. And I saw that it was holy. I share these words of benediction with you. They come from Reverend Don Cooley. Let us go out into the world singing. Let us go out into the world singing songs that proclaim liberty, songs that turn ashes into garlands, songs that bind up the afflicted and those who mourn, songs that, like oaks, have roots that go deep and stand strong. Let us go out into the world singing. We know these songs. They vibrate through time in our very souls. They are the songs that give us life. They are the songs that give us meaning. They are the songs that give us purpose. Now it is our turn to take these life-giving songs out into the world. Let us go now, singing these songs with voices deep and strong. And may the world join us in praise and in celebration and in love. Amen.